Hey there, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Dang Good Show. I'm your host, CDang, but you can call me CDang. Today, we're diving into a topic that touches all of us in some way. Love and connection in our digital world. If you tune in our last episode on emotional intelligence in the age of automation, we talked about how our uniquely human qualities become more valuable as technology advances. Today, we're zooming in on perhaps the most human experience of all, finding and nurturing meaningful romantic connections in an era dominated by dating apps, social media, and digital communication. Let's be real. Dating has always been complicated, but add in swiping, texting, ghosting, situationships, and all the new norms of digital dating. Oh, dude, it's a whole new landscape to navigate. And I don't know about you, but I've had my fair share of experiences in this brave new world of digital romance. Some wonderful, some, well, let's just say they make for good stories now. What I've learned through it all is that emotional intelligence, that ability to understand and manage our own emotions while empathizing with others, might be the most valuable skill in modern dating. It's what helps us stay authentic when dating profiles encourage carefully curated personas. It's what helps us navigate the anxiety of uncertainty when someone takes too long to text back. And it's what helps us build genuine connections that stand the test of time. So whether you're single and navigating the apps, starting a new relationship, or working to deepen an existing one, today's episode is for you. Let's explore how we can use emotional intelligence to find and nurture love in our digital world. Let's start by acknowledging how dramatically the dating scene landscape has changed in recent years. Dating apps have transformed how we meet potential partners, creating both opportunities and challenges. On the positive side, these platforms have expanded our options. They've helped us connect people who might never have crossed paths otherwise. People from different social circles, neighborhoods, or backgrounds. They've been especially valuable for those with busy schedules or those in smaller communities where meeting new people can be challenging. But there's also the shadow side or dark side. The paradox of choice can leave us endlessly swiping, wondering if someone better might just be one profile away. The emphasis on quick visual judgments can make dating feel superficial. And the gamification of dating apps with their notifications, matches, and messaging features can turn finding connection into something that feels more like a game than a genuine human interaction. Then there's the shift in communication patterns. So much of early dating now happens through text, where we miss the nonverbal cues that make up the majority of human communication. Without tone of voice, facial expressions, or body language, misunderstandings are common. How many promising connections have fizzled out because of misinterpreted texts or the dreaded left on read? I remember talking to a friend who was convinced a guy wasn't interested because his texts were short and infrequent. When they finally met in person, she discovered he was warm, attentive, and engaged. He just wasn't a big texter. She almost missed out on a great connection because of assumptions made in the digital realm. This new landscape requires a higher level of emotional intelligence to navigate uncertainty, manage our own reactions, and see beyond the digital facade to the real person underneath. And that's what I want to focus on today. How can we use emotional intelligence to find more authentic connections, even in this complex digital dating world. I want to get personal for a moment and talk about something I think many of us experience, but don't always discuss openly. Dating anxiety. That knot in your stomach when you're waiting for a response to your message. The spiral of thoughts when someone's behavior seems to change. The vulnerability hangover after sharing something personal. The constant analysis of what does this mean? I've definitely been there. When I started dating someone new, I would often feel this undercurrent of anxiety, not because anything was wrong, but because the uncertainty of new relationships can be genuinely stressful. Will they like the real me? Are they as interested as I am? What if I misread their signals? What if I get hurt? Early dating is essentially an exercise in managing uncertainty. And for those of us who like clarity and security, I'm raising my hand here, this phase can be particularly challenging. Our brains are wired to seek patterns and predict outcomes. It's a survival mechanism. But new relationships are unpredictable by nature, which creates a perfect storm for anxiety. What I've learned is that emotional intelligence provide powerful tools for navigating this uncertainty. Self-awareness helps us recognize when anxiety is creeping in. Self-regulation helps us manage those feelings without acting on them in ways we might regret. And empathy helps us remember that the other person is likely experiencing their own form of uncertainty too. One practice that's been transformative for me is learning to distinguish between anxiety-based in present reality and anxiety-based in past experiences or future fears. When I feel that familiar knot forming, I ask myself, is this anxiety responding to something that's actually happening right now? Or am I projecting past experiences or future fears onto this situation? Often, I discover that my anxiety isn't about what's happening in the present moment at all. It's about past hurts being triggered and fears about potential future rejection. When I recognize this, I can bring myself back to the present and respond to what's actually happening, not what I fear might happen. Another practice is what I call compassionate reality testing. When anxiety thoughts arise, like they haven't texted back, they must not be interested, I gently challenge them with alternative explanations. Maybe they're busy with work. Perhaps they're taking their time to think. Or they might not realize I'm waiting for a response. This doesn't mean ignoring red flags. No. But it does mean not jumping to worst case interpretations without evidence. These practices have helped me stay grounded in uncertainty, making the early dating phase less anxiety producing and more an opportunity for discovery and growth. And more importantly, they've helped me avoid self-sabotaging behaviors that can come from unchecked anxiety, like pulling away prematurely, becoming more distant, or becoming clingy when what I really need is reassurance. There's a saying that's always resonated with me. The more aware you are, the lonelier you can be. On the surface, this sounds counterintuitive. Shouldn't greater awareness lead to deeper connections? But there's a profound truth here that I think many emotional intelligent people have experienced. When you develop strong emotional intelligence and self-awareness, you start to see patterns in relationships more clearly. You notice when communication isn't healthy, when boundaries are being crossed, or when values don't align. You become less willing to settle for connections that don't honor your authentic self. And while this awareness is ultimately empowering, it can create a sense of loneliness in the short term. I've experienced this myself. As I've grown in self-awareness, I become more selective about who I invest my time and heart in. I've walked away from potential relationships that in my younger years I might have pursued despite red flags. I've set clear boundaries around how I expect to be treated. And yes, sometimes that's meant longer periods of being single or feeling like it's harder to find someone who matches my level of emotional investment and communication. If you felt this way, if you've wondered whether being too aware or too emotionally intelligent is making dating harder, I want to encourage you. What's happening isn't negative. It's actually a sign of growth. You're no longer willing to compromise your core needs just to avoid being alone. You're breaking patterns that might have kept you in unsatisfying or eventually unhealthy relationships in the past. The paradox resolves itself when we realize that temporary loneliness is sometimes the price of admission for eventually finding more authentic, fulfilling connections. By maintaining your standards and staying true to yourself, you're eventually creating space for the right person to enter your life. Someone who appreciates your awareness and brings their own emotional intelligence to the table. I love what research Brené Brown says about this. True belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are. When we try to tone down our awareness or compromise our authenticity to fit in or find a partnership, we end up with connections that don't truly satisfy our deeper needs for being seen and accepted as we are. So, if you're in that space of feeling like your awareness makes dating more challenging, I encourage you to see it as a refining process, not a limitation. You're not narrowing your options. You're focusing them on the connections that have real potential for depth and growth. Enjoying what you're hearing? Fantastic! To make sure you're always in the loop with the latest episode, just hit that subscribe button. Your support makes all the difference. And hey, this podcast thrives because of awesome listeners like you. So a big shout out for that. And of course, I'm on Instagram. Find and follow me at Christine_Dang. Lastly, looking for more information on what we discussed today? Just cruise on over to thedangoodshow.com, click on the episode you're curious about, and voila, access to the show notes. Now, without further ado, let's jump back into the show. This brings me to what I believe is the ultimate dating strategy, backed by both research and personal experience: authentic self-expression. Now, by this, I mean showing up as your true self, with your real values, interests, quirks, strengths, and yes, even your vulnerabilities and growth edges. But what does authentic self-expression actually look like in practice, especially in the early stages of dating when we're naturally a bit guarded? First, it means being honest about who you are, what you want, and where you're at life. This doesn't mean oversharing or trauma dumping on the first date. Authentic requires discernment about what's appropriate to share and when. But it does mean not creating a false persona or pretending to be someone you're not to impress another person. I remember once downplaying my love for nerdy podcasts and deep conversations about psychology when I was dating someone who seemed more interested in sports and casual hangouts. I thought I needed to match his energy to be attractive. Not surprisingly, that connection fizzled out because I wasn't showing up as my true self and therefore couldn't find out if he would actually appreciate the real me. Second, authenticity means expressing your needs and boundaries clearly. If you need more communication between dates, express that need rather than silently growing resentful. If you value punctuality, make that clear rather than seething when someone is constantly late. If exclusivity is important to you before intimacy, honor that value rather than compromising to keep someone interested. Third, authentic self-expression means being willing to be vulnerable in appropriate ways to build trust. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the courage to be seen for who you really are, including the parts of yourself that feels tender or imperfect. It's sharing your hopes, your fears, dreams, or past experiences that have shaped you. This gradual unfolding of your inner self is what allows real intimacy to develop. What's fascinating is that authenticity doesn't just feel better. Research suggests that it actually leads to more successful relationships. A study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that authentic self-presentation leads to greater attraction and relationship satisfaction. When we present ourselves authentically, we attract people who genuinely appreciate who we are, creating a foundation for lasting connection. I know that being authentic can feel risky. There's always the fear of rejection. What if they don't like the real me? But here's the perspective shift that changed everything for me. Rejection of your authentic self isn't actually rejection. It's incompatibility. And discovering incompatibility early saves both people time, energy, and heartache. When someone doesn't respond positively to your authentic self, they're not rejecting you. They're simply not the right match for you. And that's valuable information. It frees you to move on and find someone who will appreciate what makes you uniquely you. The real risk isn't rejection. It's finding yourself in a relationship where you can't be authentic, where you're always performing or editing yourself to maintain the connection. That's a far lonelier experience than being single and waiting for the right match. I encourage you to make a commitment to authenticity in your dating life. Not only will you feel better about your choices, but you'll also be creating the conditions for finding a relationship where you can truly thrive. One where you're loved not despite of who you are, but because of who you are. Let's wrap up with some practical emotional intelligence strategies that can transform your dating experience. Whether you're navigating the apps, in the early stages of dating, or working to deepen an existing relationships. Number 1, practice mindful swiping. Instead of mindlessly swiping through dating apps, approach the experience with intention. Before you open the app, set an intention for how long you'll spend and what you're looking for. Pay attention to how different profiles make you feel. Not just whether someone looks attractive, but whether their profile creates a sense of curiosity and possibility. Notice if you're swiping from a place of openness or from insecurity, boredom, or comparison. Number 2, focus on values alignment rather than surface compatibility. While shared interests can be a great starting point, research suggests that aligned values are far better predictor of relationship satisfaction. As you get to know someone, pay attention to what they prioritize in life, how they treat others, and what principles guide their decisions. Values like honesty, kindness, growth, and how they handle conflict will have a far greater impact on your long-term compatibility than whether you both enjoy the same movies or restaurants. Number 3, practice emotional regulation during uncertainty. Dating inevitably brings moments of uncertainty and anxiety. Develop practices that help you stay grounded, journaling about your feelings, talking with trusted friends who can offer perspective, meditation or breath work to calm your nervous system, and reality testing your anxious thoughts. Create a dating self-care toolkit you can turn to when anxiety strikes. Number 4, use the curiosity over judgment approach. When something happens that triggers confusion or hurt, maybe they take longer than usual to respond, or they say something that stings. Try leading with curiosity rather than judgment. Instead of assuming the worst or creating a story about what their behavior means, get curious. This might involve gently asking questions to understand their perspective, or simply staying open to multiple interpretations rather than jumping to conclusion. Number 5, honor your own pace. There's no right timeline for how a relationship should develop. Some connections unfold quickly, while others take more time to develop depth and certainty. Tune into your own comfort level around how quickly you want to move emotionally, physically, and in terms of life integration, like meeting friends and family. Communicate your needs clearly and respect the other person's pace as well. And lastly, number 6, remember that dating is a two-way assessment. Many of us approach dating as if we're the ones being evaluated, forgetting that we're also assessing whether the other person is right for us. This perspective shift can be incredibly empowering. Instead of focusing solely on whether they like you, stay connected to the questions of whether this person and this dynamic truly serves your well-being and growth. Now, these strategies aren't about playing games or following rules. They're about bringing more presence, intention, and emotional intelligence to the dating process. By approaching dating with greater awareness, you create the conditions for finding not just for any connection, but the right connection for your authentic self. As we wrap up today's episode on finding love in the digital age, I want to leave you with this thought. While technology has changed how we meet and communicate with potential partners, the essence of meaningful connection remains the same. It's still about being seen, understood, and valued for who you truly are. It's still about finding someone whose presence in your life brings you more joy, growth, and support than you would experience without them. Emotional intelligence gives us the tools to navigate the unique challenges in modern dating while staying connected to this timeless essence of love. By developing self-awareness, practicing self-regulation during uncertainty, approaching others with empathy, and having the courage to show up authentically, you create a foundation for finding not just any relationship, but a relationship that truly honors your deepest self. If you're currently in the dating world, I hope today's episode has given you some fresh perspectives and practical strategies to navigate it with more ease and authentically. If you're in a relationship, perhaps it's offered insights that can help you deepen your connection. And if you're taking a break from dating to focusing on yourself, I hope it's affirmed that this time of growth and self-discovery is valuable and will serve you when you choose to date again. For more on emotional intelligence, check out episode 12, where we explored self-awareness and self-love, or episode 44, where we discussed the value of emotional intelligence in our increasingly automated world. Both episodes complement today's topic and offer additional insights for developing these crucial skills. Thank you so much for joining me on The Dang Good Show. Until next time, stay authentic, stay open, and as always, stay dang good. Much love, CDang signing out. Thank you for joining us on The Dang Good Show. Remember to swing by our website, thedangoodshow.com, where you can easily subscribe on platforms like Apple, Google, and Spotify to keep up with our latest episodes. Loved what you heard today? A thumbs up and a positive review on your favorite listening platform would be incredibly appreciated. And if our show struck a chord with you, sharing it with just one friend can help our community grow and thrive. Thanks once more for lending your ears to me on The Dang Good Show. Until we meet again, take care and goodbye.